Hey guys, so for this episode of the Optimum Advantage Podcast, it's a little bit different. Just wanted to get on here to let you guys know that I have a crazy guest. This guy is actually one of only two business owners in the entire United States that could actually 3D print a house out of concrete, and he could literally make anything. He's like Amazon for concrete. So if you ask him to build a bust of your head, he could do that for you. The only problem is, unfortunately, as I recorded it, he did most of the talking during the podcast, during the episode. But when I was speaking, the audio was actually connected to this instead of my podcasting, microphone. And so the audio on my end is a little bit messed up, but it is one of the most interesting podcasts I've done to date because his scalability for this market and this company that he has is going to be crazy. I mean, he's already got companies that produce cement that are exclusively creating specific types of cement just for him because the demand is becoming greater every day. But it's super interesting, the things that he's been able to do, the projects he's working on. If you guys like innovation, definitely check this out. So without further ado,
Justin, how you doing, man?
Good, man. I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to getting into the discussion.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure. So, just to jump right in here, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your company?
Sure. So the nice introduction again. So my name is Justin D'Angelo. I'm the founder and CEO of Printera, and we are we're technically a startup, I guess, even though we've been at it for a few years now. But we're using large scale 3D printing with concrete to make architectural and landscape features for things all across the country, but it's like in the used built environment. And I've been at it now for, since 2021 officially, but full time since November of 22. And it's just living, breathing the startup lifestyle.
No, that's awesome, man. Anytime I see people doing startups, man, I gotta give my hat off to you because it's never easy. Just even to take the courage to start it up. But how did you get into it?
So I've been like a printing enthusiast for a long time. I've always been kind of like a tech nerd. So my old job, like my first job out of school, was in IT project management, doing like ERP systems and stuff. But I always enjoyed tinkering. So I had a little plastic 3D printer in my office, and I just like to mess with it. And I would be on like the forums and the forums and things for 3D printing. And I want to say it was probably about 6 years ago now that I saw an article about a company that was 3D printing a house. And I was like, yo, that's crazy.
I've
What are they
seen
doing?
that.
And it's intrigued me enough that I wanted to learn more about it. And I actually chased that thread all the way through to the company, and I messaged them, and they were gracious enough to invite me out to watch a print one day. So I took vacation and I went to check it out, and then I just became an instant believer that it was going to change construction. So at that point, I was like, all right, I know I got to get into this. I got to start something. I didn't have ambition to print houses. I thought, maybe I could scale the same technology down and do the other stuff that isn't as complex, right? And doesn't require permits. So I was like, maybe outdoor kitchens, right? Like planters, fountains, stuff like that, right? That people see in their backyard. And I actually started
That's
the
a great
company
idea.
as Printed Patio. And then it's kind of been an evolution since then. So yeah.
Wow. So what were the first things you were printing? Like
So
patios?
the very first thing so first of all, like I was so naive getting into this thing. I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be the same as regular small printing. And so I bootstrapped and I bought this small robot for my garage, and I started out of my garage in South Florida, and I gravely underestimated the complexity of concrete, like just not recognizing that it's such a fickle material. I thought I could just go to Home Depot
I
and
can
buy the
attest to
stuff.
that.
And boy, was I wrong. But after a while, in my garage, I basically culminated my garage experience with printing what I called my little outdoor living showcase. So it was a couple chairs, a small bar, and a table. And I set it all up and did like this really nice photo shoot. And it was with that set of pictures that I was like, okay, I got a business. And I raised the funds to start up the company as it is today, based on those pictures, basically. Yeah.
That's incredible, man. That's actually a great idea. I mean, just showcasing on a small scale and then building up from there. How did
Yeah.
you find your investors?
So it was we did a safe convertible note, so simple agreement for future equity, and it was predominantly friends and family. So my folks, being like my parents, were in for a little less than half of that first initial investment round that I did, and then I went to former colleagues and folks that I knew. We raised all together about 450K on that first round, and the average check size was like 50 grand. So it was, it wasn't a huge cap table of people, but it was a real token for folks that I used to work with that took the leap of faith and confidence in me. With, in my opinion, that's pretty still a substantial amount of money for people putting that kind of money in, and yeah, and that was the start of the business.
Dude, that's incredible. I mean, for people to have that level of belief in you, I mean, that's impressive, because I know the technology itself is kind of like, it's crazy, like it definitely had to be a big part of just you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think so, and I'm thankful every day for all those folks, because as much as it was about me, it was also like such an unknown as an industry, right? Like, you could see the technology was cool and it's a disruptor, but like it's a real slog, like, to get it out there and teach people that like this is a solution that they can even use. And so yeah, I mean, it was a flyer, right? It was a leap of faith, and we're still not wildly successful, but I think we're as far as like a new industry, like we're definitely one of the senior players and real experts in the space now. So there's good things to
Oh
come.
my God. Well, I mean, your capacity for growth at this point must be huge, because anytime you're the first person, I mean, I know it comes with the struggles being the first, but I mean, you basically have this entire industry. You're the first person, like you said, the pioneer, and oh my gosh, just the potential is just incredible, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm
Yeah,
excited for you. I'm not even in the industry.
thanks. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And to your point, so there's like one other company nationally that's doing this to the extent that we are. So even today, fast forward 4 years later, basically, if you search concrete 3D printing on Google today and you did a direction of in the United States, there's probably about 50 companies, but all but two of them, mine and one other out of Salt Lake City, are printing houses. So we're in a special little niche. Actually, that's not entirely true. There's a company out of Miami that's also doing artificial reefs, but the vast majority of these companies, right, are focused on houses and structures. And yeah, we were looking at like there's a huge untapped market for the unique things that make a space and give it some personality. So we have a couple monumental projects that we say, like that the foundation of my company, and one of them is in New York City. I'd love to talk about that one because it's a cool use case and it explains the technology in a way for anyone who's listening that's curious about how it can be used.
Please, I'm so interested to find out how you make a house, or like, it's so crazy.
Yeah. So the folks that are printing houses, right? Like today, like mostly what they're doing is they're bringing a really large printer to the construction site and they're erecting it there and they're printing the walls direct to the slab. And it's got some real advantages, right? It can be a little bit more streamlined from a labor standpoint. You can do some really interesting things in terms of the shape of the structure, but the downside is it's not yet cost competitive because of the specialized concrete that's going into it and the complexity of setting up a printer on the construction site. So when I said, okay, I want to do smaller stuff, I thought it made sense to do modular and print in a controlled environment. I'll tell you about this project in New York City, but this all that I'm about to explain is in the context of we printed all the elements here in South Florida and transported them up to New York. And even with that in mind, this whole thing was a vastly superior way of building, and it was way more cost competitive. And so I'll explain a little bit about what we did. Anyone who's in the New York City area might be familiar with the Soma at 25 Water Street. It's the largest residential conversion in the city. It used to be Chase Manhattan's building, and they turned it into this high-end residential complex. I think there's like 900 and something units or family units in this tower. Red brick building, right, in New York. And they basically took it for $500 million and did a renovation, and they made it a glass building, and like it's just this crazy amenity-rich place. And one of the features of it was the architect designed this planter when you walk into the lobby of this place, and it's 60 feet long, and it's super organic. It oscillates, and there's in between each oscillation, there's a bench, and then it goes up a series of stairs, and it separates the stairs from the ADA ramp. Right. So this is like this thing that this architect designed, right? He's like, it's going to be like a statement piece for the entry when you go in. And traditionally to do that, they would have had to bring in a concrete forming crew and make a special form for that shape. And then they would have had to have a pump truck and concrete workers and fill this thing up and then finish it off and yada, yada, yada. And so there was an enterprising company out of New York that looked at that and said, hey, maybe we can find someone else to do it. And this company was called Shaping Ideas. And they reached out to us and they're like, hey, we got this model for this thing and we're wondering if you can 3D print it. So we took it and we broke it down. And that one lobby bench that was 65 feet long ended up being compartmentalized into 66 pieces. And we printed them all here in South Florida, put them on a truck, and they went up to the city. But the beautiful thing about it is by doing it the way that we did it, like approaching this problem in a new way, there's no form crew, there's no pump truck. There's that many fewer people, like bodies on the construction site in the middle of Manhattan, right? Which is a place that you don't want more construction crews. They were able to take that lobby feature and build a twin element to it up on the 25th floor because we could make modules small enough to fit in the freight elevator that they go up there and they piece these things together. And now you have a monolithic concrete architectural piece all the way up there without having to bring special cranes or equipment. So we just beat it out any day of the week. And it's just a new way of putting things together. And it was a really cool success project.
You know what's crazy about that is that I mean, even the fact they don't even have to use union labor. I mean, they could just go right to you and it's like, they're cutting out so much red tape. I don't know if
Yeah.
you probably know about this, but for people that don't know, I mean, going through the red tape to get work done in places like New York with unions and all the permits and everything, it's a nightmare. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd
So
be cost
it's,
alone right there. And then
yeah. So
crazy.
everybody loved it. Like everyone along the way, there's still tradespeople involved because the 66 pieces that went in still need to be placed, right? And mechanically fastened together, but there's no concrete pump truck, right? You're not dealing in messy stuff, right? You're reducing that many extra people. So the other thing I hear about the industry so often is like, oh, is this taking jobs away, right? Because you're automating some element of it. And my genuine position on it is I don't really think so. I just think one, it's skilled labor that we're talking about to begin with, which was already a deficit of. So what it's doing, in my opinion, is it's letting these industries like those masons, right, that would do this type of work traditionally, they're still involved. They can just get the project done a lot faster, which means they can do more projects a year because there's a deficit of those folks. So we're all about how is it efficient, right? And how is it cost effective? Yeah, I mean, I think we have something cool in our hands, right? I think it's a winning recipe and
No,
we're
it's
proving it. So,
amazing. And I've heard that said a lot of times, like people say the same thing about AI, but it's just inevitable. I mean, it's like saying you don't want to use the internet because, you're going to take away jobs from people that are using TV. Like the jobs don't just disappear. They transform,
yeah.
like it's just progression. And honestly, like you said, you're not even really taking away that many jobs. It's like you said, people still need to do it. And look, listen, I'm the president of a union and labor union, and I'll tell you, like, I'm not even against it.
Cool.
Like, just
Cool.
because
All right.
it's so, yeah, no, because it's just the way of the future, man. And those guys, they're gonna find work either way. There's plenty of work out there for everybody. I mean, people that see this as like that scarcity mindset, like, oh, if there's no for you, it's just nonsense. I hear it all the time with AI.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's incredible. So that aside from that gig that you have, what are some of your other projects that you're working on?
So I've got a couple that were like really cool, kind of, like the big ones for us that made the company, right? And is kind of projecting us forward. So the other one I'll mention, and you're the first kind of like public thing I've been able to talk to this about. We just completed a project for the Marine Corps where we 3D printed all of the agility obstacles for their service dogs to train on. So it's like the hurdles, the ramps, right? The tunnels. So this was for a
That's so
base.
cool.
They put out a thing, they were doing a new kennel and they wanted all those obstacles made out of concrete, right? So that they last forever. And this is another nod back to the general contractor who won that project, like being a little bit enterprising and willing to try something new. And they came to us and they're like, hey, is this something that you can 3D print? Because it has to be specialty casted anyway. It's not like anybody was making these things in inventory, right? Like if you went on Google and you were like dog agility obstacles, first, most of them are custom made to begin with, but if you find ones that aren't, they're usually made of plastic or wood. And so they're looking at a scenario where they would have had to get a special concrete company to craft these things and make molds and forms. And we were able to basically execute that whole project in 2 weeks.
How long does that normally take, do you know?
Elements to this dog course, and each one of them was unique, right? So even like there were like 4 tunnels, but they're all different lengths or diameters. There's an A-frame, a dog walk, a window that the dogs will jump through. So it's a scenario where they would all be unique. And I'd have to think that in order for them just to build the forms to pour for 16 things like that, you would probably be looking at an easy month or two just for the pre-work of making those forms. And then you'd pour and then you'd allow it to cure. Whereas, once we got the green light on the project, it was like they printed all in 11 days of print time. They were on a truck the next week and they all just got dropped into place like over the last couple of days. Yeah, it's
Now,
another really
now,
cool.
yeah, I love that. I love hearing about innovation, man. It's just so incredible. As far as like how you do it though, like I'm curious, do you print out a form with a 3D printer and then pour the concrete into it?
So if
How does the
something needs to
process?
be structural, like heavy duty like that, you can use the 3D printer as like making formwork. And sometimes that's what we say to people, like we're a permanent decorative formwork. But in New York, that was true, right? So like New York, we basically printed the shape of the bench. And then for areas that were structural with rebar, they would put the rebar in and then fill in the form. For the dog kennel agility piece, they were structural as they were. So they didn't need to pour anything in addition to what we sent them. It was basically a finished unit that they received.
No, that's so cool, man. And I know you mentioned about the concrete. I know because I used to work with concrete. Like, how was that process in the beginning? Like, is that difficult to get
It was
down?
tough. Yeah, it was tough because first of all, so concrete, like it's a very finicky material, right? Like a little extra water and it behaves completely differently. If you get weird aggregate, it behaves differently. So for 3D printing, we have no large aggregate. It's just Portland cement and sand. And then there's a couple like flow modifiers and chemicals and stuff to make it 3D printable. And so the thing that a lot of people that aren't in the industry don't really recognize, and I didn't really fully appreciate even until I had the company up and running, was this niche of 3D printing. It's using concrete in relatively a new way, even in the eyes of the concrete producing companies. So when we're ordering up dry super sacks of this material that we run through our 3D print system that mixes the water and everything, the concrete suppliers are not used to producing in the quality requirements that we have, because typically they're doing either ready mix or they're doing these bags, and these bags are all getting mixed up in large quantities, and any variance in the recipe is like it just disappears in a big mixer. But we're mixing a small little thing at a time. So we need like really precise recipe, and the bag has to be like perfectly blended. Otherwise the print doesn't look good, right? So it was one of those
Wow.
things where we had a hard time even just getting a supplier that could actually produce the concrete. And it's another reason that it's even in housing, right? It's more expensive today than traditional because it has a premium material cost associated with it. Like when the concrete companies produce our material, they have to clean their production line. Their batch plant has to go through a cleaning cycle before they can switch over and produce our material. So we're paying a premium for it. But I think as the market matures, the
I
prices
was
are going
gonna
to come
say,
down.
yeah. I mean, if
Yeah,
especially they start getting more demand from you and companies like you, they'll start,
absolutely.
hopefully that,
In
yeah.
fact, there's I won't say the name because I don't know whether they would want this public or not, but one of the big concrete suppliers, I heard very recently that they're actually looking at creating a dedicated concrete batch plant for 3D, and they would be the first ones to do so. So that will have a substantial impact in the price of the material because they won't be switching lines back and forth and whatnot. And I think they'll start to nail it with quality too, because if it's one facility is dedicated to making the 3D mix, like that's going to project the industry and propel it forward.
Oh my God, that's so like validity like giving too, because it means like if a massive company like that is just specifically doing that for you guys, this is something big. This is definitely looks to me like the start of something huge, man. Um, that's awesome, man. I'm so happy for you. I do want to ask you this though. So now that you've got the company like up and running or whatever, like what's your main goal? Like what's your vision for the company like moving forward now that you got these
So
big projects?
we're transitioning out of like proof of concept phase into scaling. Literally at the end of this year, hopefully by the end of January, we're moving into a new facility. We're doubling our production capacity, additional robot and everything. And that's going to be what I'm considering our optimal production facility for Florida. And then the vision is to take this nationally and build satellite print locations in the demand markets. In the example of New York, right, we ship that stuff all the way up there and we ship stuff across the country all the time. The shipping isn't detrimental to the project, right? relative to what it costs, but it's still not ideal to be shipping large concrete elements across the countries. The model of 3D printing, if you're printing in a closed environment where you control the variables and you're using the same material on the same robot, then it's an easily replicatable business, right, from market to market. So I'm looking at, 3 to 5 years down the line, maybe we have a satellite print location in the Northeast and maybe we have one in Texas, right? And we kind of follow where the demand drivers are. And then, Printera product could become a more national thing than it is right now.
Is that where you foresee kind of the big main hubs being, like New York, Texas, Cali,
Those
stuff
are
like
those
that?
are two of them, at least where we're seeing business today. California is
Okay.
actually a pretty big driver too, but just because of how far off they are, that has been an example where it's been detrimental.
Mm,
The freight lanes from Florida to New York are super efficient, but when you start
yeah.
to look at projects like, you know, Arizona, Nevada, California, Washington State, we get some inquiries out of still. Then the freight becomes kind of prohibitive to being really competitive. So definitely print locations out there. They also have markets that value the robust nature of concrete, right? Look at California with wildfires as an example, right? You know, Structures, if you're looking at housing, it's a great material to make a house out of, but that
Wow, yeah.
carries through to the stuff that we're making, right? If it's the columns for your house or any of the accents or features that go around it, like it should have that same, robust life cycle that the structure should have. Florida, we're in a high hurricane and salty environment, and
Mm.
concrete loves that environment, right? It doesn't corrode, it's heavy, it doesn't go anywhere. And those attributes carry through to other areas in the country. So I think those markets are the big ones, but the reality is like if I use like icon businesses for me, right? And I want to like follow like their vision or like their plan. If you look at like the Closets by Design or the California Closets companies as examples, right? Those are like what I call micro factory businesses, and they're in all markets around the country, and they're just using small localized production. And that same concept could flow forward with this business. And there's a lot of cool stuff we can do. And by the way, one last sector that we're just starting to experiment in now with this 3D printing is infrastructure. So there's all kinds of things in like stormwater management, manholes, culverts, drainage basins, customized elements like that you have subterranean that 3D printing is an excellent application for. And that stuff is needed all over the country too.
Yeah, the guys I represent, they work on that all the time. They're doing sewer like frameworks and stuff.
Yep,
That would be massive. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, sometimes these
So
jobs.
So for your connections there, and for anyone listening, that the idea with that is if you're working on utilities and you've got a junction box and it requires a specialized angle of ingress or egress on whatever the connections are, 95% of the time they can order that stuff out of catalog, but the 5% of the time where they have to get something custom and special, that usually costs a hell of a lot more money and it takes a long time to get your hands on. 3D printing is an amazing application for that because it doesn't come with much of a premium and we can get it to you real fast. So that's what we're looking at. And I can publicly disclose that we're working with Oldcastle as a massive international company that does infrastructure and exploring those opportunities because they think that there's a real market for that kind of stuff too.
Oh my God, big time, man. I mean, that kind of stuff is like I've seen how long it takes in municipalities for them to come out and get somebody up because sometimes these things are under the ground and you have, no choice but to like make the form down there and it's
Yep.
just a nightmare.
Yep.
But yeah, that's crazy. That's actually it's probably a huge market. I don't think about it. And so now that you've got these it makes sense, right? Like, because you're trying to take it and cut out the time it would take to get there a bit more efficient. It's also more cost effective once you get these different locations set up. Have you, I know you mentioned in the beginning about like the, since not a lot of people know about it, is that one of your goals as well to kind of like bring, I guess, education into that to let people know that this is something? Have you focused on that at all?
Absolutely. So my first role at the company really, right? So now I'm in a position where I've got colleagues that are kind of handling the production, but like my main responsibility today is business development. And so what that really looks like most of the time is customer education. So we're going to trade shows, we're going to conferences, we're doing lunch and learns with individual firms, right? Whether it's engineering or architects. And we're just basically coming in and showing pictures and shop drawings and examples of projects we've done. Like, look, this technology is available to you guys. Here's how you can use it. And I love that part of it because one, people almost always get excited about it when they see from a design standpoint, they're like, whoa, I can do this crazy organic thing. It's not going to cost crazy money because the robot doesn't care if it's a straight line or it's a crazy curve, right? It doesn't cost any more. And then, and secondly, like it's cool, right? Like people know now enough about 3D printing where maybe they understand the fundamentals, but this is the first exposure they have to it, that it can be at construction scale with large elements, and people just kind of get jazzed about it. So I love going and educating people. And now, unlike 3 years ago when I was like starting the company out, I can actually show a portfolio and be like, look, this is how it's used, instead of just like, hey, this technology is cool, it's going to work, trust me, right? You're like, hey, here's a project we really did, right? You don't have to worry about it. And that's meant a lot as well.
Yeah.
Thanks to those early companies that took a leap of faith.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially, I mean, with things like the New York one, those are flashy, and like people those kinds of things are great, man. And you're right, man. As far as like it being something cool, like even I'm excited about it because like I never even thought that this would be a thing. I've worked a lot in that space. I've worked in landscaping companies, construction, like the union thing. It's like but I never thought like the only exposure I've had to this is I've watched like videos I think on Instagram where you see people pouring those molds of the houses and it goes all around and stuff. That's what you were talking about before, right? The first time they do the form setting. Yeah. The application of actually taking it and making it into small custom things because it's so much easier. It's like every day between this and AI, it's like it's so
the thing that I find a lot of people get excited about on the small scale is what you can do for like theming your environment. Because you can imagine like in a commercial space, right? Like a public commercial space where there's a lot of different elements that make up the personality of the environment that you're in. You can take common elements and theme them similarly. So just example, right? Like say you're going to a golf club and they have custom made gate columns, but then also a fountain, and then all the planters and the lighting bollards, like they're all printed, and they are printed with a uniform aesthetic and style. It's like these little accents that make up the whole property, but tie it together.
And they would all match.
Right, exactly. And they all match, right? So it's like, yeah. So there's stuff like that where it's like people look at that and they go, oh shit, like, I can do some really cool stuff. And this place has like a personality, And before that would have been like reserved for like ultra luxury, like super premium, to customize all that stuff individually, like the theme parks, right? They would do it. But now anybody can build a brand identity with that, and it's not going to break at the bank. That's
right. Like before you had to get creative. You might even have to look on Facebook to try to get like those little lion things if you want to do your backyard. Like now you could probably type in like a 3D model or you could put it into like ChatGPT or something, come up with a concept, send it to you, and you guys would print. Do you guys work with people individually like that where they could maybe just
Yeah, we do. We do. So it's what's kind of kept our company alive in the beginning because of those long sales cycle times to do big commercial projects. We started, I was like, oh crap. Like I started this company. I was like, I got this great idea, but New York took 2 years to materialize from concept to delivery. So in the meantime, I'm like running out of money, and what are we going to do? So we started selling direct to consumer, right? Like we were doing planters and outdoor kitchens and things. And that's where people, you could approach us, and we'll still happily do that stuff today. And I love it too, because it's a faster lead time, right? Like if you want to convince somebody that their backyard needs a new barbecue area and some matching planters to go along with it, it's a lot less complicated than to convince 25 Water Street that they, that's a good.
Oh my God, sitting around a bunch of board members.
Yeah.
Do we have the budget this year? I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's totally something we work with people, and the fun of that too is, they could come with, to your point, they could go into ChatGPT or whatever LLM you're using and type in, I want to see this, right? And give us the example, and then we can model it and basically make it a reality.
That's so cool. You could get one of like your own face printed on like a pillar.
Something, cool. One of the first videos that I saw that was like a big impetus into the industry, that other company that I mentioned, my only competitor, they're out of Salt Lake City. It's a company's called Picus. And one of the first things they did was a video on YouTube with Jerry Rig Everything. And Jerry Rig went and they, like the YouTuber, right? And he's like, I want to 3D print a giant statue of myself and pop it at my buddy's pool, right? Like put it in his pool. So they did it, and they documented the whole thing. And it was really cool to see, but it's a great use case and example of like just being creative and using the technology.
That's so funny. Yeah. As soon as you said that, I pictured like Futurama or like the president's heads where they got
do all kinds of crazy stuff. We're actually about to print.
That's so cool.
We're actually about to move into the art space. We're about to print some 6-foot tall chickens, right? Like It's super random, but yeah, the stuff's out there. I mean, people want to use the technology for different reasons, and we're happy to do whatever.
That's awesome, man. So how have you been getting like reaching out to people and in that way? You guys have a website or like
Yeah,
you guys
absolutely.
make
So
content?
I fully encourage anybody that's listening and they're curious, like seeing pictures or video is going to take it so much further in your understanding of what we can do than just me talking about it. So any of the socials, right? Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. If you search Printera 3D, we'll come right up. Lots of video content out there. Our website, printera3d.com, is a little bit more professional. It's got our portfolio and print cases. So that's a cool thing to go see. And we like to document in that not just the finished result, but the kind of process shots along the way. So it's a cool place to see some stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm also just broadly available. I have a standing philosophy that I'll take any call and I'll join podcasts and I'll do whatever, right? I just want to spread the word about this because it's a cool thing, and more people that hear about it, the more ideas that you have. And David, even though you're up in, New Jersey, right? Like you may run into something one day with the union, right? That says, oh man, we got to get this thing. And I might be in Florida, but I could probably still help with this. And that's the beauty of the technology. So
That's awesome. So, like, actually speaking of that, say like for my union, right? Like we wanted to print out like a stone thing of like our emblem, right? Let's
yeah,
just say, like, would you print it out and then just ship it to us through some sort
totally.
of carrier? Yeah.
That's
Oh my God.
Yeah, we just throw it. I mean,
So you
depending
didn't
on the
have to,
size of it, right? Like, yeah, I mean, if
right?
worst case is it goes on a pallet and it ends up with you. I mean, otherwise it could be dedicated truck. Like it all depends on what it is. But we do so many logo based like planters. Like you do like a really big planter for the front of a building, right? And it has the logo of the company or some text in it. Like, there's all kinds of stuff you can do.
I just got to convince the union to let me put my head on there instead of the emblem. That's so cool. Yeah, just having your head somewhere. Uh, how much is something like that just for anybody listening? Yeah, I know obviously everything is different, but like if you just got like a really broad price range of maybe like, some little statue like this or something, or like a planner, like you said, like how
Yeah.
would that look like?
So all of our pricing, regardless of what it is, it's all based on just print time. So when we have a
Okay.
model, we pop it into our software that we built, and it tells us exactly how long it's going to take to make and how much concrete's going to go into the object. It'll give an approximate weight, right? So what I would say is, without something in my hands to show you as an example, it's kind of hard to describe, but like a reasonable size planter, like say maybe like a 50-galloner that you would see out the front of someone's house, like, by their entryway, right? Like, something that, is kind of like the size and width of my torso, and then maybe, 2 or 3 feet tall. You're probably into like the $300-$400 range, right? For like a really big industrial planter like that.
That's pretty good, man.
Which is, yeah,
Because
exactly. It's
that's
pretty
custom. That's
right,
custom
exactly.
work.
And it's concrete, right? It's not the plastic stuff that you're going to get at Home Depot, right? It's not even the, a lot of planters today, they make them look concrete, but they're really just like like a blasted fiberglass type of stuff. And this
And
is
they're
like,
fragile too.
yeah, this is heavy concrete. It can still be considered fragile, right? If you smack your car into it, right, you'll probably still break it, but like it's going to sit out front and it'll last longer than you if you're not moving it, right? It's not going to go anywhere. So yeah, so you're in that range, right? But the downside, right, when you talk about sculpting, for example, the layer lines, like in my background, right, that it produces one layer at a time, the minimum height that we can do in that is 8 millimeters. So like that's like, I try and convert that into an inch, right? It's like maybe a little more than a quarter inch.
Hmm.
So you lose definition, right? It doesn't have the same definition if you print something out of plastic. For you to print your face and actually make it look like you in large scale enough, it would have to be like 6 feet tall. It'd have to be like a 6 foot tall head.
Even better.
All right.
The excuse to just get it just as
Yeah.
huge as possible.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I have to do it.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, and at that scale though, now you're in the a couple grand type of price point, but still, relative to any kind of custom work like that, like we're talking, it's a significant savings, and it's, again, back to the beauty of the technology. The last thing I'll say about that is one of the reasons that is it's the driver is the reduced labor. I'm really excited at the fact that our production facility, right, where we're producing all this stuff inside, the whole robot cell of producing this thing, that runs the whole piece of equipment, it can be done with one operator. So, the guys who are printing on site, it usually takes 3 to 5 people to efficiently print a house or a structure. And we can do it inside with one person. We always have 2 for safety reasons. And, we want to make sure that the environment's good. But one person can be working on packaging or whatever. It only really takes the attention of a single operator to run this thing. And if you
Dude,
compare
that
that
is
against traditional
incredible.
precast, right? Like we're much more lean. It requires
Wow,
less
dude.
space. So yeah, it's a pretty cool
We really
space to
are
be in.
living in the future, man. I mean, the things that like one person can do, like
Yeah.
every day I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't even type. I like type to talk. So I'm like talking to like ChatGPT or like,
Yeah.
Siri or something. Like it's so incredible how you've managed to like get onto the front lines of this. Like I know you said you got into 3D printing, but like what what was like you said you saw a video, is that what sparked it?
Yeah, it was an article. It was an article. It might have even been like on Reddit or something. I don't even know where. It's been a while since I looked at it, but it was something that I came across in the 3D printing world. And it was like, this company's printing a house.
That is
Yeah.
so crazy. What
And
were you doing at the time?
so at the time I was working, so my previous career was in IT project management. So I was doing like app deployments and ERP systems and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
so it
But you
was,
were working for a company though? Like
yeah, I
you
was
had
working
like
for a company. Yep. I was
okay.
like on almost like a consultancy basis. So I'd go and do projects. I've done projects for Royal Caribbean and HSBC, Slim Fast brands. Like it was all about like converting their IT projects into something that's legit. Right. And I just remember this thing coming up and I was like, all right, I'm taking a vacation day. I'm going to watch this thing. I came home and I remember talking to my wife. I was like, this is so cool. Like this is going to change the world. I want to do something with this. And I've always been entrepreneurial, like since being a kid. And it just felt like the right thing to do. And at the time, it wasn't so risky because I was doing it moonlighting in my garage, right? I was like, buy a small robot and nights and weekends. And I didn't have kids at the time. So it was an easier lift. Yeah. And then when it came time for, me to put my money where my mouth is in terms of like actually going to scale, then it was a harder thing to do. But I'm glad I did it.
Dude, absolutely. I mean, this is one of those type of careers where it's like it must be so fulfilling. You know what I mean? To be at the front line and something like that. Like
Yeah.
that's
It,
so
it's,
cool.
it's gratifying for me to like see the product, like the result of something we made, like actually out in the world. That to me, like to walk past like an area where there's something printed we did and like people are using it, like sitting on the bench or whatever, and be like, hey, I made that. That's really cool. The technology's awesome because I'm into tech, but at the end of the day, like coming from that IT world, like there's so many like apps and products out there, and it's like, what are they really making? It's not really a tangible product, right? Like, you could
It's
replace
not
a TikTok
concrete
with
other
whatever
than
the
the
next thing
fun.
is to come around. I like that where I was like making a real thing that, somebody gets to use. So yeah, that
It's
was,
solid, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and dude, if you're anything like me, like your wife must get slightly annoyed at you because anytime I would do a job, I'm like, yes, I did that one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's
Even
the one
worse.
I
She's so sick of hearing me now because I'll walk around like just the world today and I'll be like, hey, we could print that. We could print that.
I know exactly what you mean. I was doing trees, but I would just be looking up. I'm like, that limb needs to get cut down. And she's like, would you pay attention to me? I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like, oh,
exactly.
sorry, sweetheart.
Yeah, yeah. You start to see the world like, yeah, yeah.
That's funny. No, no, man, I'm super happy for you, man. This sounds like an amazing gig. I'm so glad I got to speak to you. This has definitely been one of the more interesting segments we've had on just with
Thanks.
your
Yeah.
company.
I love telling people about it. So thanks for having me.
No, absolutely, man. And listen, if you people want to find you and reach you at, do you have like a specific website with social medias? How do they find you?
Yep. So again, if you go to Printera 3D, like if you search that in any of your social media platforms, we'll come up with the exception of X. We're not on that, but everything else we're on. And then our website, printera3d.com. You can find me personally on LinkedIn, or my email is just J as in Justin D'Angelo at printera3d.com. I'm happy to email and talk to anybody. You look us up on Google, right? And you call our number. Most of the time it'll ring through to me. You'll probably get a hold of me personally. So I'm always happy to talk to folks.
So, man, Justin, I really appreciate you coming on, man. This has been an absolute pleasure, brother.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. My pleasure.
Thanks, man. Guys, check him out. Okay. He might blow up, be a millionaire soon. This millionaire in this company. So check them out now while you still have the chance, and get your head bust, guys. So
Cool.
thank you, brother.
Thanks.